Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Awkward Situations, or if you're here for the first time, try the crab dip. I highly recommend it. This is the series where you guys write comments about situations happening in your lives, awkward or otherwise, and then I talk about them. Last week, my friend Sidearms joined me for a situation. If you missed that episode, I'll be sure to link it in the description, and I'll be extra sure to forget to do that when I'm editing. But a lot of people seem to really like it, so I'm going to try to have guests on once every other episode. Maybe Sidearms will join me for a few more times. I really just like talking to Sidearms, but I also have other friends I like talking to. Shadow and B-Dubs were in the comments, and I think those people would be great to have on to talk about certain things. So I will keep that in mind for future episodes. Maybe some people you're not used to hearing me talk to, because it's great to have different opinions on... No, it's not. I was going to try to make some bullshit up about how it's great to have different opinions for all of these things that are happening in our lives, and you can weave the different opinions together to form a basket of harmony and grace, but it's bullshit. I just want to talk about myself, and I want to give my own advice to your problems, which is actually just me talking about myself. So... What a great series this is. I don't know what I'm talking about. Hey, let's get to the first awkward situation today. Today's first awkward situation says, "Hey Joel, I was at my friend's house with his girlfriend and another girl that I really like and talk to a lot. Of course, my friend and his girlfriend started kissing and making out during a movie that we were watching. I was kind of just sitting there with the other girl, and I didn't know if I should start small talk, then lead into start kissing her, but I decided not to do anything because I really didn't want anything to go wrong, but I thought it was pretty awkward. What should I have done, or what would you have done in this situation?" I really like this awkward situation. One of life's classic conundrums. What could this guy do in this situation? I have been in this situation myself, a similar situation. And this isn't going to come as a shock to many of you, because a lot of my most loyal viewers know that I am, in fact, a beta male. But I did the exact same thing this guy did. So I wish I could speak from experience, but now I'm just going to have to speak from a perspective beyond that time in my life. Maybe I learned something with age. I really didn't. It is a tough thing to do. I like how you said that you could have started some small talk and then just lead into kissing. How would that small talk go? Like, your friend is over there groping and tonguing his girlfriend on the other side of the couch, and then you just whisper in this girl's ear, "Hey, did you see NVIDIA stock is really shooting up? That's a really good stock to invest in. NVIDIA just has some crazy returns right now." I don't know what you would say as small talk when it's so obvious to the both of you that there's this intense physical interaction happening on the other side of the room. And it's difficult when that's a couple that is on a different relationship plane than you are with this girl. Maybe you and this girl will be a couple at some point, but those people are clearly on a different level, and they could just do that because they have this intense physical interaction, and they or intense physical attraction rather, and they know each other really well. And they've done that many times before, and you're just getting to know this girl. So you can't, in my opinion, there's some dominant males in the comments who will respectfully disagree, but you can't just take it to their level when you haven't done all the other stuff. If this is a race, they've already put the oil in their car, and they've already messed with the pipe. I'm not really big into cars, so I don't really understand, tighten the pipes and all the stuff you do. Again, beta male. But yeah, so they've already done all that stuff, and you're building the car right now. You got to put the windshield on. You don't want to get a bunch of bugs in your face when you're racing. You can't catch up to them right now. I mean, you could if you were, again, a dominant alpha male, which I am not. But I think that it's to be expected that that's not what you should do, and it's not something to be ashamed of. In the situation I was in, we came back from a dance. I don't remember if it was prom or I don't know. We had 3 dances, and there was a fall dance, a fall formal, a winter formal, and prom. So I don't remember which dance it was, but I went to the dance with a girl I liked, and it was myself and her and one of my friends and his girlfriend. And his girlfriend was friends with the girl I liked, so it was a good pairing since I was friends with him, So we were juniors in high school, and I was never a big partier in high school. None of those people were huge partiers, at least in their junior year. And we decided to have the 4 of us go back to my friend's house. Actually, I think it was my friend's girlfriend's house. and watch a movie. So we did that, and I was spooning the girl I went to the dance with on the couch. That's, I guess, a pretty dominant position for me to be behind her, lying down on the couch with my arm wrapped around her. And he was on the side of the couch. I guess there was a sofa chair, if I'm remembering correctly. And him and this girl just start going at it. I mean, there was no sex, but there was some kissing and some sounds like, oh yeah. No, not really. We were watching, what movie were we watching? I cannot remember at this time. But there was also some sex scenes in the movie, so I just felt like I was surrounded by sex. And I probably could have made a move. I feel like I was a little closer to this girl than you. Well, you didn't really explain how close you are to this girl, but this girl was my biggest regret of not pursuing her more in high school. So the more I think about it, the more painful it is. But a 26-year-old male, it's okay. It's okay. This was almost 10 years ago now. That's pretty crazy. And I just didn't do anything. But I don't fully regret it. There's situations where I've been closer to doing something with a girl, and I just look back and think, how could you not have thought to act on this all these signs from this woman? It's crazy to me. But it's hard. So don't beat yourself up over it. My roommate Megan, I mean, these interactions happen between adolescents. People are young and they just want to get all over each other. This really doesn't have anything to do with anything, but I just thought this was a cool situation. Did I say my roommate Megan? I meant technically correct, but what a downgrade in the relationship. My wife Megan walked in on her roommates one time. Well, she walked into the kitchen that she shared with her roommates, and people were having sex with each other. They came back from the club and they were just having sex in the kitchen. They had rooms they could go into. They all had 4 individual bedrooms, and she could have taken her male partner into the room, but instead they just decided, fuck it, let's just get down on this counter right now. And Megan was just trying to get some water. She's thirsty at 3 a.m. or whatever it is. And she just walked in on them banging. So that's cool. Was there a point to that story? Not really. It's just that these awkward things happen. So I'm glad we talked about it, and I hope you feel better about yourself. Just don't worry about it. You'll get to that point with this woman eventually, or you'll lose interest and find another girl to be with. No big deal either way. Let's move on to the next awkward situation right now. Here is a situation that is different from most of the ones you do. I was driving home from a friend's house alone in a middle-class, average-looking neighborhood about 45 minutes from my house. I'm about to turn on the road that would lead me out of the neighborhood when some guy, 35 to 45 years old, raised his hand in the middle of the road. I figured that he would warn me about some kind of accident in the way of where I was going, so I rolled down my window and pulled up to him. He said he was from Texas. This is a state a couple of states away from the state that this takes place in, trying to get to a restaurant to meet his girlfriend, but his car broke down in the middle of this neighborhood. The man said that every person he tried talking to denied him a ride to the restaurant, and that he has no weapons. He said he would pay me $10 to drive him to the restaurant. I wanted to help him, but I am only in high school, and it sounded fishy. Not only that, but I had no idea where the restaurant was, and he said he had the address on his phone, but his phone died. I am aware of what bad things people could do, but he could just be a nice man that was only going to meet his girlfriend. However, as he is almost a half a lifetime older than me, it seemed kind of dangerous. I also had a few expensive items in my car that I really didn't want stolen. I said no to the man and left. What would you do in this situation? What if it was in your neighborhood? Well, I would have done exactly what you would have done, and if it was in my neighborhood, I would have reported it to the police, which is what this man should have done, gone to some professional outlet to try to find a way home. I mean, I'm surprised there's no Uber or anything like that in this area. Uber's everywhere now. You must be in a really rural part of the particular state that you were in. I guess Uber's not everywhere. So it seems like this man had other options, though. He said his phone died, so he couldn't call a cab or whatever. But he has the address on his phone, so his phone's dead, but he's still going to be able to tell you the address on his dead phone. So he could have just had, sounds fishy is a great way to explain the situation. And it's smart that you did not help this man go where he wanted to go. It's funny to hear stories about people in the 60s and 70s hitching rides across the country and just getting in the car with strangers. That stuff is unimaginable nowadays. I'm sure some people still do it, but it is extremely dangerous to put your trust in strangers. And that's unfortunate, but it's a reality of the world that we live in. And I'm very glad that you didn't put yourself in a dangerous situation. My wife and I watch Too Much ID channel. That's the channel that shows like murders and missing persons cases and all that stuff. And there's this really famous missing persons case of a woman who was hitchhiking, I believe in the 70s and 80s. Not 70s and 80s. I think, well, she was gone for, I think, 8 years. So I think it started in the 70s and she was found in the 80s, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, she was hitchhiking. And a man who was with his wife that was pregnant at the time picked her up, and he long story short, kidnapped her and ended up keeping her in his basement as a sex slave. It was like all soundproof and stuff, and he was a God, I always screw this up. I believe he was a sadist, a person who gets off on seeing other people in pain. It's either, is it sadist or masochist? I don't know. It's one of those two. But I'm pretty sure it's sadist who got off on seeing other people in pain. He kept her as a sex slave and beat her and raped her and all this stuff. And he like stored her, like she's a food item or something, under his bed. He made like a prison, and she like lived in a wooden box for 7 years, essentially. I mean, she would get out an hour or two a day to clean the house, and then she would just go back in her box, which is pretty sick. But I'm just, those things come to mind when talking to strangers, is what I'll say. The world has scarred me enough to not want to help people. But I did help someone recently. I was Christmas shopping in East Lansing, and there's a little shopping area there called Eastwood. I was going to walk into Dick's Sporting Goods. If you guys know me, you know I love Dick's. And get some like yoga type pants for Megan, which I did end up getting her. They're Nike brand, so they were, of course, $120 and totally worth it. And as I was walking in, this man walked up to me, and I swear to you, he looked exactly like Matthew McConaughey. My first thought before his mouth opened and said words to me was, this motherfucker is Matthew McConaughey. And he did have a southern accent, which is a very weird thing to hear in Michigan. You don't hear a lot of people with southern accents. And he's like, please, sir, can you help me out? My wife and I, and his car, I parked my car, and it was parked in front of his car. Of course, I parked in front of the guy who was desperate for money. He showed me his wife in the car. He's like, please, sir, we're desperate for money. We've been living in our car. We've been eating bread. We're from, I don't know, Alabama, Arkansas, some fucking southern state. And he was like, well, please, I don't, and I like, before he was, stuttering, and before he finished, I just pulled like a 20 out of my wallet, because that's all I had. I mean, if I had 5, I would have pulled a 5 out, but I was like, here you go, man, just take it, whatever. He's like, thank you. And hopefully he went and got food with that, but they quite honestly looked like crystal meth addicts, which maybe they were. So I either provided him with food or helped sponsor a good old time smoking the rock. So I don't know what that situation was, but sometimes you help those people, but I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who don't use institutionalized means of getting help, like a homeless shelter, or calling the police for help, or calling a taxi cab, or something like that. Like there's resources available, and I would argue there should be more resources available, particularly for mental health issues and stuff like that. Oh, another, I've said this on the series before, so I don't want to go over what I've said many times in the past, which is something I tend to do. But I had a run-in with a man I would assume is schizophrenic at a Mexican restaurant in Grand Rapids with Megan. We were there late, and we were the only 2 patrons in the entire restaurant. I think there were maybe some other people on the other side of the restaurant, and this man just walked in, sat down, and he showed me this. He said he needed to have me Western Union some money to him so he could take a train to California to donate his kidney to someone. And he pulled out this paper to show me why he needed to do it, and it looked like the Zodiac Killer had written on it. If you've ever seen someone with, I guess, like a mental disability or some type of disease, sometimes they'll write things a little differently, or they'll write in a manner that's a little harder to understand. And it is interesting. Like Megan, I said she wants to get a degree in abnormal psych, and that stuff is interesting, but it was very scary. And he followed myself and Megan out to the car, and I was like, please, I had to get in the car kind of hurriedly and drive away from him and almost hit him with my car, just because the people in the restaurant wouldn't do anything about it. And I called the restaurant, and I kind of like freaked out on them. I was like, you need to fucking get some security in your restaurant, or like have someone come over and help us. And they're like, we only have all girls working in the restaurant right now. It's like, Jesus. I mean, I was pissed off, but I feel, you feel bad for that person too, because that's an old person. He was probably in his late 40s, older male, and he didn't get the help he needs. And a lot of people on the streets just needed some help in their life, and they didn't get it. I tend to have a lot of sympathy for people, but at the same time, my sympathy runs dry when you're trying to get help from strangers, because you have to take you have to know how they're going to feel. I've been talking about this for too long, but Megan and I just talk about situations like this all the time because it's something we're really interested in. So letting you guys into my life a little bit, let's move on to probably the last awkward situation. I have 4 open, but this is probably going to be the last one I do. Okay, Joel, I'm currently a freshman in college, enrolled at the University of Missouri. Go Tigers. I did pretty well in high school, and I got a bunch of scholarships that recur each year in college as long as I maintain a high GPA for every 2 semesters. My parents are helping me pay for college, and this first semester I basically dropped to the minimum number of credit hours and decided to change majors because my GPA has gotten so low. It is currently at 1.7. Ouch. My parents have no idea how poorly I've been doing in college so far. And I know you mentioned in one of your videos you dropped out of college yourself, so my question / awkward situation is, how can I tell my parents about my grades without giving them a heart attack or making them hate me because they basically just spent tens of thousands of dollars on a wasted semester and won't be getting any more help paying for school from the university because I'm also about to be stripped of my scholarships? Also, do you regret dropping out of college? And would you recommend it? P.S. If I don't drop out, I'll be a physics major. In the middle of reading that situation, I became concerned that I have done this one previously. So in case I have, I'm going to try to rush through this one a little bit and then do another one. But I do want to answer this person's question. Do I regret dropping out of college? Yes and no. I regret it because I'm at that point in my life when things are starting to get a little scary in terms of thinking about my future. I mean, it's scary at a lot of different points in your life, but the point I'm at right now is thinking, where am I going to live? How am I going to get the money for a house? Do I need a second car? I mean, do I need a second car is like 12th on the list of things that I'm worried about. But the main thing I'm concerned about is, where am I going to live and how do I get the money to pay for a house? And a lot of those questions are a lot, I would assume, a lot easier to answer if I had the security of a degree to fall back on. Because who knows how long this YouTube thing is going to last. If I was going to buy a house, I would honestly want to pay for almost the entire thing in cash. Just with some of the situations I've seen with other YouTubers, it's a scary proposition. Your income fluctuates so much. And you could get approved for a house that is worth $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, something like that, because of how good you did in one year, and the next year you could have half of your income. You know, that type of situation, and it just screws the whole thing up because paying for a house is based on the assumption that you're going to make relatively the same amount of money every year or something. You know, I don't know that much about mortgages and all that stuff, so I shouldn't make assumptions, but that's kind of what it seems like. I am so unsure of what my future looks like, which is also kind of a positive. I like not knowing that I'm going to sit at the same desk for the next 35 years, get promoted 4 times, retire, and die. That's very scary in its own way, but, you know, there's scary in that way and scary in the way that I'm doing things, which is there's an insecurity about what I'm doing. And I wish I would have just gotten a film degree or a radio broadcast journalism degree or something like that, because that's seems to be what I'm interested in. You'll never fully know what you're interested in. You're always going to have self-doubt, and I sure do. If I was going to go back to college, I would still be really unsure about what degree to get, even though I know what general field I'm interested in. But I think about it almost every day. So yes and no. I don't regret it because at the time I dropped out, I was making a fairly decent amount of money on YouTube. It was in the midst of like my upswing, I guess, to my most successful point. And there's peaks and valleys. I'm not going to, Joel, your channel's dead. I am positive in believing that I can get to a point like that again, but that was certainly a peak in my YouTube career. And I dropped out and I was $20,000 in debt, and I was able to pay off all of my debt with what a portion of what I made that year on YouTube. And but then I just spent $20,000 for essentially nothing. I mean, if I went back, I'm sure I would have some progress in classes, but I probably would lose a year or more towards a degree just based on the classes being outdated. And I would have to, at this point, take some type of test, I'm sure. I think I've been out of college for 4 years. So I don't know. It's something I think about a lot. And I would just tell your parents that you made a mistake. You're supposed to make mistakes at your age. There's a lot worse mistakes you could make. And, I mean, you're going to suffer the consequences more than they are. I'm sure they're not going to pay for your college. So I would hope that they would be understanding. If it was my child, I would say, I'm disappointed that happened, but I was the same way when I was your age. I've always been a slow learner. I got terrible grades my freshman year of middle school, high school, and college, and I would say I'm a slow learner on YouTube. I'm more confident in my decline than I am in my like peak. It happens. And the college system is so fucked in our country. It preys on your inability to choose something. It's like you have to take advantage of the college system. If you really know what you want and you just set out this efficient plan to go get it, the college system can work for you. But the reality is that's maybe 5 to 10% of all the students. A lot of people just want to get general degrees. They say, I'll go to college and figure it out, and that's fine. That's going to happen for a lot of students, and you can make that work, but it's a lot harder because you spend a lot of money, you switch degrees, and you just become more and more in debt, more and more indebted to the system, and it's fucked. I don't know a better way to handle it. I guess, that's the argument of should college be free and how things are done in Europe versus how they're done here, but it's a frustrating system. So I hope you can figure it out, man. Maybe with your own money being involved, you'll take more. It'll like feel like it's more on you, so you'll try harder, I hope. And I think I think just having a small break, maybe not drop out, but just take a semester off to think about what you want to do is really advantageous. Some of the smartest kids in my class that graduated and are using their degrees now took breaks before they went to college to travel a little bit and think about what they wanted to do. And I think it's really benefited them. And I'm totally for trying to figure your life out before you're paying to have your life figured out, or it's a system that you need to be efficient within if you're going to use it. So I hope for the best for you, and I'm sure this is actually a really old situation. I feel bad I didn't address this earlier, so I'm sure you've already had to talk to your parents about it, and if you're still watching my videos, I hope it went well. But yeah, just hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Awkward Situations. Wait, no, I said I was going to do one more. Actually, I said I was going to make that efficient, and I think I talked about it for 10 minutes. Fuck it. Let's just end it. If I already talked about that, I'm going to be so pissed because I made that so long. What am I going to do with you guys? What am I going to do with myself, you guys, comma? Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys are excited for more content in 2017, Awkward Situations, and other good stuff. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.